Hello again and welcome back to our course on Dreamweaver CS6. I hope you've been patient and managed to work through the last 2 or 3 sections where we've looked at some of the very necessary general topics related to Dreamweaver. Now we're going to spend a little while working more on the website that we've started to develop. I hope yours is starting to take a little bit of shape. I must admit it doesn't look particularly attractive at the moment. Websites really look very attractive and still you start to get a little bit of colour and some pictures in there and so on. But we're headed in that direction, and with a little bit more patience you'll be starting to see some real results. By way of revision, I've opened the home page of the Springs Park website and I'm just going to put a link to the second page, the new arrivals page, just to recap where we were when we left off a little while ago. So let's do that now. So the procedure is we highlight the area or the point where we want to put the link. We can then use the insert hyperlink option. The little dialog comes up. We can say on there new arrivals as our text. The link, click on the browse button, we'll go to our Springs Park folder, select the new arrivals web page, click on OK for that, and the target is going to again be self. I'll come back to that a little bit later on. And then we just click on OK. Now if we go into live view and then hold the control key down, click on new arrivals, takes us to the new arrivals page, hold the control key down, click on home, takes us back to the home page again. So that works fine. Now the other thing I'd like to quickly do by way of revision here is to go down to the footer that still has this information about how to deal with a particular footer issue. Let's go into split view. We'll come out of live and go into split, go down to the footer, and the text we got in the footer here, this particular paragraph, I'm going to take out. I'm going to leave the paragraph markers in there for the moment because I want to put some different text in there in a little while. Let's just delete that for now, rather distracting. And now if we open the other page, we can do the same in the other page. Now don't forget we've always got the recent options there, so if I go to File, Open Recent, New Arrivals, again I can go down to that same point and delete the same bit of text. Now one of the things that's apparent here, and I did mention earlier on, clearly it's not a good idea when you've got the same thing twice to have to do it over and over again. It would have been a good idea to make that decision to get rid of that footer earlier on, but we'll come back to that a little bit later on. For now let's just delete that. Let's do a refresh, and that's gone from there. And on the index page again we can look at the text that we've deleted here. To do a refresh we can always do the F5 as you may recall, so that's refreshed as well. Now there are really 2 main aspects to adding text to these pages. One of the aspects is getting the text into the pages, and the second aspect is formatting the text itself. Now in this section we're going to concentrate on getting text into pages. The most obvious way, the one we've used already, is to really click in the required location and to start typing. That's how we put in the information here about new arrivals, our stars and so on. But there are various other ways of getting text in, and let's look at one of them now. One of them, which is really quite impressive, is to be able to import tabular data from other sources. Now to see the point of this, what I'm going to do is to create another new page. So I'm going to say another file, save as, but this time the save as, let me just use the new arrivals page. Let's just go back into design view. This time what I'm going to do is to have a page that shows the opening hours for Springs Park. So there we are. In much the same way that I created the new arrivals page earlier on, I've now created an opening times page. I've left some of this other pretty irrelevant content on there just for the moment. I'm going to just press the return key to create a new paragraph there. And now on the file menu, I click on import. Now with import there are really four options. I'm not going to worry too much about the first one, XML into template, for now. I'm looking at tabular data. Now there are two other options down there, Word document and Excel document. Come back to those later. Let's just think now of tabular data. Click on tabular data, and what Dreamweaver asks us for is the name of the file that contains that tabular data. Now before I put the name in there, let's just take a quick look at that file. So here is my tabular data showing the Springs Park opening times. All I've used is tabs to separate the columns of data. So I've got an empty one there, then it says open close, Monday tab 0800, tab 1700, and so on. That gives me the full week and the opening hours for each day of the week. Let's see what happens when I try to import that data into Dreamweaver. So first of all, let's browse to the file. It's on my desktop. I've left it down here. There it is, Springs Park opening times.txt. Now the way of formatting tabular data in Dreamweaver, and in fact the general setup of tables in Dreamweaver, is a topic for later on in the course, so once again I'll come back to that. We're pretty much going to accept the defaults here. The delimiter is tab, well that's the one that I've used, and for the table width I'm going to stay with the selection of fit to data, and I'm not going to worry about all of the formatting here. That's something to deal with later on. Let's just accept the defaults and see what happens when we click on OK. And actually when we click on OK we get a not bad result. Actually we've got the opening times there in tabular form. There's probably a little bit of formatting we'd want to do to colour that in, make it look a bit more attractive, but you can see how straightforward it is to get tabular data into Dreamweaver. Another great advantage of this is that of course we could maintain this table, maybe take it out of a little database or somewhere and import it fairly automatically into the site to update it when the opening times change, perhaps with the seasons or with the new year. So that's how you can get tabular data into Dreamweaver. Now there are various other ways of importing text from other sources into Dreamweaver, and during the course of the next few sections while we're working on this website I'm going to demonstrate those, getting text from Word documents, Excel documents, and also getting text from the web. But I want to just concentrate now on a couple of specific things that you need to be aware of, and I'll demonstrate those others later. One of them is that you also within Dreamweaver have the standard cut, copy and paste options. So it's pretty straightforward. For instance, if I wanted to take one of these paragraphs, this sentence here, and I can do this in design view or code view, I can select it with the mouse in the way that I've just done there. I can cut it or copy it. I'm going to cut on this occasion. I can put the cursor somewhere else, and I can do paste. Now the standard keyboard shortcuts apply, so paste is Control V for example. In the same way then with any window-based application, I can copy, cut and paste between pages, between parts of a page, in order to move my text around or make copies of it. Now that's all fine, but there's one or two things here that really drive people mad because they don't quite realize what's going on. And one of them is, if you look at where I cut that piece of text, it left a space, it left a blank paragraph. Why did it do that? Well, it's straightforward enough to see if you go into split view, because with the cursor there in split view you can see that when I cut the text I didn't cut the paragraph markers, the paragraph tags as well, and that's why I finished up with what appears to be a blank line. If I get rid of those, so select those and then press delete and then refresh, then you see that it all gets closed up in the way that I probably intended. This shows the advantage very often of being able to see code view till you get used to exactly how things work, and you can see in code view exactly what's going on. And following on from that, here's a really neat little trick that's worth knowing about. If you want to cut some text, or even if you want to delete it, you don't really need to use the mouse or some other mechanism for selection. You can use the status bar. Let's suppose I want to get rid of this sentence here, all the way from South America. If I click, then if you look at the status bar over here, I have this sort of trail of HTML tags. So there's a body tag, there's a div container, then a div content. These are basically nested tags, and I'll be talking about that when we look at HTML later on. The P tag, the paragraph tag, is shown as the last one because I've actually got the cursor in a paragraph. If I click the tag on the status bar like that, what happens is that tag, everything between that tag, gets selected. If I then want to cut or delete, let's delete on this occasion, just press the delete key and the whole thing's gone, the tags and the content as well, without having to worry about finding exactly where it ended. It's just everything within those tags, including the tags, gets deleted or cut or copied. So once again, if I select this one, click the P tag, and then I'm going to copy. So in this case, if I use the menu option, edit, copy, which is Control C, if I were to then say go up here before the word from South America and do edit, paste, watch what happens. It goes in as a brand new complete paragraph, including, of course, in effect the carriage return at the end, which is because I've included the HTML P tags. So that's a very neat way of copying, cutting and pasting within Dreamweaver CS6. And just for completeness here, it's worth bearing in mind one or two other standard tricks when selecting. Of course, you put the cursor somewhere and that's the selection point is there. If I wanted to select from there to some other point, if I hold the Shift key down and click somewhere else, then everything between those 2 points is selected. Also, to select a single word, I don't really have to drag very accurately. I can just double click somewhere in the word. And similarly, if I want to select a whole paragraph, I triple click in the paragraph. So 1, 2, 3, I get the whole paragraph. These are all good tricks to be aware of when you're working in Dreamweaver. Now we'll be looking at some more of the subtleties of copy and paste later on in the course. For the moment, just a couple of final things on adding text. One of them is that sometimes you may need to add special characters, and there are facilities in Dreamweaver CS6 for this. If you click on Insert, there is an option down there for HTML, and amongst the HTML options there is a special characters option, and a range of special characters are available. Now, apart from some of the more straightforward ones that you'll come across like copyright, registered, trademark, pound and so on, then you have other, which brings up a whole table of special characters including accented characters. In this case, I've got our head keeper. I want to say Jose is the head keeper, so I want E with an accent on it. So I'm going to find an accented E character. That's that one. Click on OK, and there I've got the accented name Jose. A little bit later on, I'm going to put a copyright symbol in the footer of our pages, and I'll be using special characters for that as well. So that covers many of the main ways of putting text into our pages. In the next section, we're going to look at a couple of other options, and we're going to start to look at formatting that text, starting to make it look a little bit smarter and making it reflect the style of our website and the design that we've decided on for the website. So I'll see you then.